All right, good morning, Freedom Wing. Thanks for joining us. Doing not really a quick bullet thing. We'll probably try to keep this to about an hour, because I know you guys have a whole bunch of other ADLS training you got to do. This is going to be a little bit out of the ordinary. Normally I take questions throughout the session, but this we'll hold them off to the end, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. All right, so if anybody has got any problems seeing the slides, let me know. So the purpose of this presentation is to help enhance the writing skills of everybody in the wing. And since we've started this, we've noticed a drastic improvement. And we want to keep this momentum going. So I'm sure you guys have heard, it's been blasted all over Facebook and everywhere that our wing, out of the 39 wings in AFRC, won 3 of the 4 major Airman NCO and First Sergeant of the Year awards. That's unprecedented. No wing has ever done that before. And that just goes to show you the type of talent we have in our wing. But stuff like this that we do for you guys to help write these packages is going to help us go even further. So I just hope you guys get some good stuff out of this. Like I said, if you got any questions, we'll hold them off to the end. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a past EPR. We'll do some tongue and quill review. Then we're going to look at the magic of bullet writing, written by retired Chief Guerrette. We're going to look at the 514th Air Mobility Wing Writing Guide. I also have on here that we're going to do a data review and draft a bullet, but we obviously can't do that since we're not in, doing it in person. But we'll look at a past EPR review again to see if we notice any differences from how we start. All right, so here is my EPR from when I was a tech sergeant. So take some bullets, how they're written, and we'll come back to the end and look at this EPR again and decide whether this is a well-written EPR or not. All right, some of the things to keep track on or to look at on this one is this one right here. I don't know if it's highlighting on your screen or not. Demonstrated superior technical skills in replacing aircraft window in minimal time. So pay attention to that one. The one above it, credited with saving the Air Force over $10,000 on a new aircraft brake when he repaired one that was leaking. And another one, this one right here. All right, so we'll go back to the slide. All right, so the tongue and quill, if you guys didn't know, actually has the proper way to write an EPR bullet. The tongue and quill has been in existence since I've been in the military, but I didn't find out until last year that the tongue and quill actually had a chapter in it about writing bullet statements. So the most recent version of the tongue and quill, the Air Force Handout 33-337, is available through EPUBs. Anybody can download it. Chapter 19, page 247 actually starts diving into how to write an EPR bullet. But what we're going to do is we're not going to dive into the book itself, just a couple points out of it because I don't want to belabor this. You can get lost in the tongue and quill because there's so much stuff about writing mechanics and grammar and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to look at the process of getting started, drafting an accomplishment impact bullet, polishing the bullet, and we'll look at some bullet mechanic statements. So one of the biggest things when you're writing an EPR bullet is you got to make sure that you can track everybody's accomplishments, the awards they received, you name it. All right, you need to keep organized, keep records of everything that your members are doing, and encourage your members to keep track of what they're doing. I know here in the 514th Aircraft Maintenance Squadron, a lot of our guys have these little green books that say memorandum on the front of them, and they fit right in your front pocket. And everything they do, they write them in here. If our guys go out on a flight line and launch a C-17, they write down the tail number, they write down anything that happened throughout that launch sequence. Keep track of that stuff. Was it an on-time takeoff? Did it have any issues while it was trying to launch? Did you have to fix something? How long did it take you to fix it? How much cargo did they put on? And this is not just aircraft maintenance specific. If you look at FSS, when they're, our customer service folks, when they're doing ID cards, you have to sign in to get an ID card, and the purpose of signing in is so they can keep track of how many people they serviced. whether, and at the end of a UTA, they can look at that data and say, look, we did 300 ID cards, we processed 25 SGLI applications, this, that, and the other. So keep track, keep organized, make sure everybody documents everything they do. The second bullet there, know the format. Most evaluation forms are written in bullet statements. So make sure you're using the correct font and point size. Whatever you're writing, and the reason why I put this in here is because what you guys are looking at here is not just for EPRs, this is for 1206s as well. Certain 1206s require a different font. They may require a different font size, a point size. So the guidance that gets sent out to you for the specific award will tell you what to use. If it's a bullet statement, it'll say bullet statements required, and it needs to be a 12-point or a 10-point Times New Roman. There's other awards that are written in a narrative format. Those use a different font, those use a different point size. So make sure you know what format you're writing. Pretty much any EPR, you're guaranteed it's going to be a bullet statement. All right, so when you're editing your bullet, in the tongue and quill, again, there's a section called the mechanics of writing. So you want to check for grammar, punctuation, abbreviations, capitalizations, etc. You also want to write effectively. You want to grab the reader's attention right off the bat. Your positive words and phrases leave a lasting impression. So grab the reader's attention with that first bullet. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. All right, so drafting an accomplishment impact bullet. Step one is you want to extract the facts. All that data that you guys captured for your members, this is what you want. So what did the member do? You want to record a specific action. You want to annotate the record. So write down a power verb that best describes the action. Did you repair something in something design? Did you correct? Did you identify? Stuff like that. Next, you want to measure the action. You want to document the numerical information, the data behind it. And that's where this is the most important part, is the data. How many items did you fix? How many people did you service? How many PHAs did you get done? How many immunizations did you give? How much money did you save? That needs to be captured. This is where you're drafting everything together, where it all connects. So you want to document how to accomplish, how the accomplishment impacted the bigger picture. So everything that you just identified, what they fixed and how much it cost and who they serviced, how did it impact your unit? How did it impact the group? How did it impact the wing? Or the installation, the NAF, Big Air Force, the AOR. This is all a giant part of it. So make sure everything's connected. If something doesn't make sense to you, ask the member. Facts and figures don't always present themselves easily. So how was it done? If you're a supervisor of a shop of avionics technicians, you may have guidance and control and communication navigation together. And you may be a crew chief, so you may not know exactly how it's done. That's where you got to ask the questions. So, hey, how did you do this? What exactly did you do? Perfect example was yesterday with, one of our AOQ packages, there was a bullet in there that talked about education. And I needed a little bit more information about where the member went to school, how many credits were taken, what the GPA was, and how many credits are left. That's the kind of stuff that sometimes may not be captured, and you may need to ask the member to get a little bit more or to explain something. The next one there is ask others and check. That means is if something doesn't make sense to you, check the AFI, check the regulations, check your tech data, logs. Ask other people that were there to make sure that actually happened, because sometimes some things are embellished. Where you may say I did 300 HAs when we know maybe you can only do 35 at a time or per day. So just check to make sure the numbers aren't embellished. And track accomplishments as they happen. So don't wait till the end of the year and go up to your subordinate or whoever you're writing an EPR for and say, hey, give me your bullets for the last 2 years. That shouldn't happen, because you can't remember everything that happened in the last 2 years. So as something happens, track it, write it down, put it in your phone. I mean, everybody's got logs. I think I got Aaron Peterson on here. I know he's got a cell phone. He puts everything in his cell phone. Same with Aaron Mendoza. These guys amaze me. When I first took this class and they were sitting in there, one of them showed me their phones, and it just surprised me the data they were capturing. And that's exactly what needs to happen. And there's really no excuse for it now. Sometimes these little green books, like I mentioned, are handy. It's convenient. You can just pull it out and write something down in it, but everybody's got a cell phone, and it's easy to, you know, tap away on the keyboard real quick, say, hey, I did this today. That way, at the end of the rating cycle, your supervisor can say, hey, show me what you did. And you can either text it to him or email it to him, screenshot, whatever, and he's got it. All right, so sorting information, basically you want to test each item to see if it's associated with the accomplishment. So basically you want to connect the accomplishment with the impact. You want to make sure that it makes sense, and everything that you're writing is for that specific accomplishment. Because sometimes it may be an accomplishment and the impact is for something totally different, or the result is for a different accomplishment. So you want to make sure everything lines up together. If it doesn't, don't use it. In this particular instance, just don't throw it away. You know, like just put a mark next to it. Say, maybe I won't use this, but I can reword it for something else later on if you don't have enough data. My screen switched or not here. All right, here we go. All right, so the next step is building the bullet structure. So the accomplishment element. Your accomplishment element begins with an action, and it's best described with strong action verbs. So on page 250 of the tongue and quill is a list of action verbs. Then you can start with that. Let me pull it open here. I got an older version, so it might not be in the right page. Not on there. But anyway, if you guys go to that page in the new version, there's a full page of them. So they tell you to start with an action verb. Some cases, whatever the member is doing needs to be identified. It needs to be captured even better. So they may say, throw an adverb in front of it. Again, it's in the tongue and quill. It's not a common practice that we've been using lately. So we want to get away from doing it. So as you can see on the slide there, so that first bullet says processed over 300 records with no errors as part of the 40-second ABW exercise. So processed is your action verb. It's perfect. All right. If it's something they did that's really huge accomplishment, then you could add that adverb on there where it says tenaciously processed. Like I said, you'll still see that on some of the EPRs, but we're trying to go away from doing that because it's kind of a fluff word. It takes space away from this bullet where that you can actually add more data to it. All right, so it started with an action or an action, but don't worry about making it an adverb. I just put that in there just because you're going to see it in the tongue and quill, but we're not going to use it. So the impact element. So your impact explains how the actions had an effect on the organization and what the level of impact was. And the impact should be consistent with the accomplishment. So that goes back to tying everything together. Right? If the impact and the accomplishment aren't consistent, then it's not going to make sense. And you'll know it. It's not going to sound right to you. So the impact element for that bullet that we just went over was all wing personnel met their scheduled clock times. All right. So that's okay, but it can be tweaked. And we'll get to that next. All right, so connecting the accomplishment and impact elements. So one of the ways to connect them is to use the ending of a word ing. So processed over 300 records with no errors as part of the 40-second ABW mobility exercise, ensuring when personnel met their scheduled clock times. Punctuation is another way to do it. So processed over 300 records with no errors as part of the 40-second ABW mobility exercise, and he inserted a semicolon in there instead of putting the word ensuring. All wing personnel met their scheduled clock time. The one that we use the most is the punctuation. And you'll see that when we roll into the second part of this with the brown bag lessons. Multiple impacts and sub-bullets, although they are listed in the tongue and quill, they're no longer used. And everybody always asks, well, why don't we use them anymore? Basically, your local guidance will tell you if you're going to use local or if you're going to use multiple impact bullets or not. And basically what a multiple line bullet is, you write an accomplishment and impact, and there's a sub bullet that goes with it. Maybe somebody launched an aircraft that was doing a presidential support mission, and it had a bunch of maintenance issues before it took off, and you want to capture that as well. So, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, we used to do multiple impact bullets, and and all it did was take away the ability for you to write a very strong one-line bullet. So we got away from doing that. And multiple line bullets are actually, I don't think I've ever seen one except for like a maintenance effectiveness award, which is like a 10-page package. So your EPRs, your 1206s that we're doing here in the wing, our wing guidance tells us to use single line bullets, and that's what we're going to use. All right, so step 3 is we're going to streamline the final product. So we're looking for accuracy, brevity, and specificity. Your accurate bullets are a must, and to be accurate, they have to be correct. You don't want to stretch anything, you don't want to exaggerate, you don't want to embellish, because when you do that, your accuracy is lost. All right, so if you're saving the Air Force $85,000, say $85,000. Don't put $185,000, because somebody's going to look at this and be like, does this really make sense? They're going to call BS on it. And you guys should actually be calling BS yourselves when you see stuff like that, because you know what the right stuff is. You know how accurate it should be. Evaluations, appraisals, awards, decorations are all part of a permanent official record. So be factual in it. Right? Put what actually happened, because this is going in their records forever. When you're editing for brevity, you want to select words that are shortest and clearest, yet most descriptive. Replace all the long and confusing words. We're not wordsmiths here. We're not trying to make ourselves look good by how we write, fancy words. Use common terms, but be descriptive. Don't use words such as a, and, the, can, could, might, personal pronouns, linking verbs, that kind of stuff. You want to get rid of that stuff, because that's all, it just takes up room where you can put more of an impact statement on there. Specific bullet statements contain detailed facts. To write them, you need to be familiar with the people and the systems involved. And this goes back to fact checking and asking other coworkers or checking the tech. Don't be satisfied with the 10 to 20 range or round numbers. Get the numbers. And if you're not writing down exact numbers, then go talk to your supervision or your leadership and find out where you can go to get the exact numbers. Right? Because rounding is not really a good way to do things. Be specific. Polishing your bullets. So there's no specific order to polish. We're still using your accuracy and your brevity and specificity here. So that first bullet there, repaired 17 seriously corroded, broken or missing logic periodic antenna elements in the gateway or the Atlantic Gateway system within 3 days. So basically what you're seeing here is the very first rough draft bullet of what this member did. Right, so accuracy, you want to check, ensure the facts are accurate. So ask a couple questions. How many did you actually fix? How many were replaced? How long does it take? Does it really take, and why? So they put 4 weeks, or 3 days, you want to ask, does it really take that long, and why does it? In this example, 17 were salvaged from equipment, 23 were repaired. The antenna elements come from only one vendor, and delivery time is based on low priority to the work order. So when your members are catching EPR bullets or their accomplishments, they might not be taking all this into consideration. They just may say, hey, I fixed 40 antenna elements and I saved $3,500. Well, what did you actually do to those 40 antenna elements? This is where you're going to ask for accuracy. You want to make the facts as specific as possible. Again, ask questions, get the answers, but you want to be specific. Exactly how many antennas were fixed? So a total of 40 were repaired or replaced, all from 6 LP antenna systems. How much was actually saved? It was $34.79. So it wasn't $3,500, $34.79. So that sounds more realistic. I know it's what, $12, $13, and my math sucks, but it's not much different than what the roundup is, but specific is better. All right, so how would the cost savings be spent? So if you save $3,500 based on various antenna elements from this system that don't need to be purchased for other antennas, what did you use that money for? What could it be used for? So the revised bullet, after you polished everything up, is there right there on the screen. So restored 40 seriously corroded, broken, or missing antenna elements on the AN, so they shortened up that part for the Atlantic Gateway antenna system within 3 days by using elements from decommissioned antenna parts. So here's your revised bullet. You see there's sub-bullets there. So like I said, we're going to get away from that. This next page will show that. All right, so if you look at the very bottom line, during the editing, as you're polishing these elements, checking for accuracy, brevity, specificity, so they're taking out seriously corroded, broken, or missing, and replacing it with one word, damaged. So damaged replaced all that stuff. So elements on 6, so they took out number 6 and spelled it out because our wing mechanics guide tells us that certain numbers or certain things are supposed to be spelled out versus an actual number. For periodic antennas, they got rid of systems in the Atlantic Gateway system. They got rid of the estimate because it wasn't an estimate. It was actually 3.4K instead of an estimated 3,500. Procurement cost, we already know that it's a procurement cost, so we got rid of that. Sharply improved voice clarity. What's up?
Shuts off after 40 minutes.
What does?
Zoom.
Not this one. We're good.
Okay.
Sorry, we're good. So sharply improved voice clarity of voice signal over the Atlantic Gateway systems for operators in the U.S. and Europe. So basically, this person writing the bullet asked where the system is used, so they're going to add Europe and U.S. and Europe in there. All right, so next one. So basically, what you're seeing here is exactly what was on the one. The after editing one is the one to pay attention to. All right, so restored 40 damaged elements on 6 of those antennas in 3 days using decommissioned aircraft antenna parts. So everything that's crossed out there is basically what was taken out and reworded to shorten this thing up. And again, this is how everything is in a tongue and quill. And these examples are in there. So basically all this stuff is taken out of that guide. All right, so I ran through this fairly quickly, and there's a reason for that because we're not using the tongue and quill too much. I just need to let you guys know that it's there, and that's what the official guidance is. All right, so anybody have any questions so far, any comments? Is everybody able to see these slides okay?
Sir, there was one question if you'll make the slides available after the session.
Absolutely. Hopefully, are you able to capture everybody who's in this session? Kinda
Yes,
like
sir. If everybody registered, then I've got their emails. Not everybody's using their full name. So, but yeah, if you registered, then I can send it out. Otherwise, we can just post to the wing where they can go and get the slides afterwards.
Okay. I can either email them out or I'll send them to you and you can do whatever you want to do with them. In the past, I usually take the sign-in sheet and I email it to everybody who's on the sign-in sheet, but that's a little bit difficult this time, but we'll make it happen. We'll make sure everybody gets it.
Yes, sir. Those are the questions we got right now, or that is the question we have right now.
Okay. All right, moving on to section 2. So this next part is probably the most important part, and this is what changed my style of writing, and I didn't discover this until last year. So Chief Guerrette is a retired command chief out of Peterson. Him and a retired master chief out of the Navy put this guide together. And believe it or not, this guide, like I said, it is turned around my way of writing EPR bullets. So this is what it looks like if you guys can see it. I'm not sure if you can see the slides in my video at the same time. On this next page here should be the link for brownbaglessons.com. You can go there and download this. It's a PDF guide. I just printed out a set and I put a binding on it just so I can have it for reference for the class. Really good guide. I recommend reading the whole thing, not just the specific EPR bullet stuff, because it talks about grading packages, it talks about doing boards, and on his website actually talks about, he's got additional things, because if you see on the slide, there's 4 parts on it. He's actually up to 7 parts now. The other 3 are not published in this book. They are available in PDF format or some kind of PowerPoint slide on his website. And one of them is establishing your online persona. There's another one about filling out a resume. There's another one about interviews. So his website's got a lot of really good stuff on it. And this guide has changed the way I write and the way a lot of people write. There's also a Facebook group called the Murder Board. So I'm sure everybody's heard of a murder board before, which is basically when we put together your AOI packages or your AOQ packages, what have you, when they're submitted for review or election, a board of senior leaders will sit down together and pick the best one out of them. And that best one, if it's going to go up to a NAF or AFRC for review for a nomination, the murder board is going to look at it and try to make some of those bullets that are in there even better. So basically, we're going to kill the EPR or kill the 1206 to make everything even better, to make it stronger. So there's a group on Facebook called the Murder Board, and that's exactly what it is. So if you have a really good bullet that you know is good, and you want to submit it to the Murder Board, you post it in Facebook, and somebody will write back to you and say, hey, this is a really good bullet, or you can reword it here. They'll tell you that maybe the bullet is written for a supervisor, not a manager, or you're missing a certain aspect of it, or hey, that's a unit level bullet, it's not an AOR bullet, and there's a whole lot involved with the mechanics of it, and all that stuff is captured. It's all in this book right here. Like I said, I recommend you guys use it for purpose. We're going to look at the part 2, which is the magic. The magic is where the bullets come together. So we're going to go right to that. Right. So from page 5 in his book, he calls it Genesis. So the simplest way to craft every bullet is to divide them in 3 distinct parts: action, impact, and result. The what, the how, and what it impacted. So what did the individual do? The how is what was accomplished, or how was it accomplished, and the impact. And what impact did it have? Could it be, was it a personnel impact, a unit impact, a base impact? So you'll see some of this stuff does tie into what you got out of the tongue and quill. But a lot of it is the way he interprets stuff, and it's really, really good. So it's simple. We've been telling this, for quite a while: action, impact, result, AIR. This is what you want to look for. And believe it or not, I'm going to pull in another slide here real quick. So our wing mechanics guide, you see here 1.4. This is what the wing is directing us to use: action, result, impact, or action, impact, result. All right. So this is why we're emphasizing this one. So there's your prevalent method used today: action, impact, result. It's similar to 2-part bullet, but where writers are driven to squeeze everything into one line. It is the official standard. And like I said before, the tongue and quill is the official standard, but we're shying away from it because it doesn't give us what we need. So this captures what the person did, what the action impacted, and the end result of the action. So your action element must clearly describe the individual's specific contribution. Without an individual's clear action, you don't have a bullet for which to give credit to. The action should not only describe the individual's performance, but also performance. So the level of performance, I'm not going to get into that too much because that's more. But basically, what he's talking about when it's level of performance is, it's basically, did that bullet, like if you change a tire on an aircraft, you're doing your job. So that's kind of like a unit level bullet. But if you change the tire on an aircraft that is flying the wing commander on, and it had a cut, or it had a specific mission tied to it, then that's not just a unit level bullet. That could be a wing level bullet. So that's where your levels of performance come in. All right. So did the member perform a task, or was the action performed at a higher level? And that's part of the whole level thing. So your ambiguous or unclear statements make it difficult to understand how much to attribute to the overall accomplishment. So we'll get into the ambiguous or unclear statements here in a few more slides. But that's one of my pet peeves is ambiguous or fluff. Your impact element explains how individuals' performance influence the next level and provides scope. I got to move my thing here. Provide the scope or influence. It serves as a connector between the action and the result. The stronger the connection between the action and result, the better the bullet. If there's a poor connection, then it's hard to attribute the result to the action. So your impact is extremely important. The result qualifies the outcome of the individual's effort. So this is where the data comes in. What was the result? This is where you need all the data, the numbers, how many people were serviced, that kind of stuff. It becomes the measuring stick and establishes the value of the bullet. And it ties everything together. So here's the fluff. So here's the big thing. So some call it weak writing, some call it ambiguous writing, but the common term is fluff. So when an accomplishment falls below an expected performance level, it's considered fluff, which is not valuable for recognition or merit. At least one component in each bullet must include an action. So if you have a statement written on an EPR, and I'll go back to my old one here in a little bit, if there's no action, then you don't have a bullet. It's considered fluff. And in my eyes, when I'm looking at a 1206 for an Airman of the Year package or Airman of the Quarter package, and it doesn't have any action, I just line through the bullet so that you just lost points with that one. Because without action, you can't actually confirm that the individual did something. Ambiguous action will impact the overall score much more than an ambiguous result. And basically what that means is if you fluff a result, if you say instead of $85,000, it's $185,000, it's more believable than not having any action. So when the word narrative begins with fluff, the contribution will not clearly connect the results. And I'll show you some of the fluff examples. Many will find zero value and score accordingly. So that goes back to, you know, if you fluff line, you're not going to get anything from it. All right, I need to get back to my screen here. Why is this not going to open now? All right, give me a second here. I'm trying to figure out why my Adobe's not working. All right, so while this stuff is trying to load, if you look on the screen here, the highlighted bullet, actually, don't wrong one, this right here. Nope, got the wrong one again, this one. As chief subject matter expert, his expertise has been invaluable during the TBA transition process. So without action, right? There was no action in that at all. So we'll move on. My slides aren't working here for my PDF isn't working. All right, so examples of the fluff. So incredible leader, essential to personal team, 250 airmen deployed to AOR. So the action and the impact are fluff. So incredible leader, there's your fluff statement. It does not describe performance. The word essential is tangible to describe impact. So just saying that they are doesn't make them that they are. So the only tangible part of the result, so 250 airmen deployed to the AOR, that's a good result. But the rest of it, there's no action, there's no impact. So the lack of action and impact prevents the individual from receiving credit for the result. So yeah, does it look okay? Is it something that we normally see? In the past we did, just like here, incredible leader. So I think you could still see here, results oriented, industrious nature. So these are all things that we used to see on EPRs, that we occasionally still see on 1206s, but we got to get away from newness. All right, so this bullet right here should start with responsible for generating 4 aircraft in under 6 hours. That would be your action, not results oriented. That's not an action. So
Chief,
vital member of the team. What's that?
this is Sergeant Mariano. I do have a question. Sorry to jump in. If you can go back to that last slide real quick with the fluff words that you were just identifying.
Mhm.
Would it be okay to place in the result the word essential? As a result of the individual's actions and the impact, it developed an essential outcome, or
Good. Yep.
right? So the individuals that are writing the bullet may have misplaced the word. It develops essential attributes in the result as a result of your supporting information. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And that's there's a couple slides, and we'll get to that. There's different forms of writing these bullets, and one of them is a reversed. I can't remember the exact term, but it is in the slide where it talks about putting the result first, and that's where you could capture it. You know, I haven't reached that level of expertise yet of writing EPR bullets, so when I do the kind of stuff, when you see a reverse a bullet, me personally, I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. But this, like I said, this stuff will get there. So here's a few more examples of fluff. You know, some of these are seen in some bullets or some EPRs, and we just want to get away from doing these because there's absolutely nothing in here that is of any value that shows anything that the member did. I'll just leave these up here for a few seconds so you guys can read them. You know, some of these are written like a sentence, which you can do a sentence EPR bullet, or I guess it wouldn't be a bullet, but you could write it as a sentence, but you still have to have an action and accomplishment, impact and result. You know, a true inspiration to all unit members of the unit, that's nothing. So you can't if you got an EPR or 1206 that has all this stuff in here, you can't do anything with it. All right, so which format is the best? So don't get confused that the bullets don't follow typical formatting. So writers, you can still use 2-part bullet. Other times you can use a 3-part bullet. However, the AMW or 5/14 AMW guidance is 3-part bullet. Some writers will forego punctuation marks, and the statement reads more like a complete sentence. You can still do that. Bottom line is the bullets can be written in any format. Just make sure to know which components are present and identify the value of them. And regardless of the format, remember to capture the interest of the reader. So here's some basic formats to expect. So your first example is a 2-part bullet. Change aircraft tire in 1 hour. Repair returned aircraft fully mission capable. So there's your accomplishment as you change your aircraft tire. Your impact is you return the aircraft fully mission capable. Perfectly good standard bullet. Your second one is a 3-part bullet. Change aircraft tire, repaired in 1 hour, aircraft fully mission capable. So there you have an accomplishment, an impact, and a result, which is our normal standard bullet. This is what we're going to do. There's also a complete sentence, which is change aircraft tire in 1 hour, returning aircraft to fully mission capable. So there again, you still have your action, impact, result. You can use this. So here's your alternative formats. And sorry, Mariano, this is where your question comes in. So your reverse 3-part bullet. So you got your result first, then your action, then your impact. So sometimes you need to do this. And really, really good writers can do this at the drop of a hat. So your standard alternative format, rewrote technical data, corrected assembly errors, avoided minor wear. So it's properly written. It's a little weak. You could probably get a little bit more data, but it's a good bullet. Next one is avoided $20 million damage, rewrote technical data, corrected safety errors. So example 2 is your reverse format. So strong writers move results to the beginning, or they're the most significant part of the bullet. So if you're capturing, like in this case, $20 million of damage, that's huge. So you want that to be the first thing that the reader sees. All right, so the biggest thing is, bottom line, don't bury the information. So putting it all together. So either 2-part or 3-part bullets are suitable to effectively communicate performance. Furthermore, bullets can be composed with any part in any order. Skilled writers can position the strongest components at the front of the bullet to strengthen the odds that the information will not be overlooked. So engineer the bullet so the most important parts will not be missed. Don't make the reader hunt for important information. Following these tips will help make sure that you make the most persuasive environment for possible success. So this is really a good paragraph to read here. You can engineer those bullets so as soon as you see it, or as soon as the board member sees it, it's like, oh wow, look what this person is doing. All right, so we'll talk about some writing traps. So in his guide, it actually goes into these fairly deeply. We're not going to get too deep into these, but these are some of the things you want to avoid using. All right, so non-promises. So studying for a college level math CLEP exam, expect 6 credits towards associate's degree. All that does to me is tell me that you don't have an associate's degree, and I'm not going to use it. I can't give you any credit for it. All right, if you're 12 credits in, or if you're a little bit more specific, you can reword that so you're not making a promise. It just shows that, hey, you're engaged in something, and this is how far along I am. But an expectation is kind of like making a promise, and you don't want to do that. Hang on, my lights just went out in here. All right, the next one is a faulty lead-in. So hard charger, completed 12 CBTs, 100% current with mobility training. You can use that, but don't put hard charger in there because the lead-in is not accurate. You know, it's a fluff statement. I'm going to open up my book here because some of these have a little bit better examples. So the fluff in here is the hard charger. You know, using a lead-in it's ambiguous in the beginning. All right, so the third one is the lead effort. So lead effort culminating in organization winning Air Force Vern Orr Award. So the fluff in this one is the lead effort culminating in organization. All right, it's an example. This example, there's no way to know what the individual actually did or led or the impact of their efforts. All right, so your next one is a job title trap. Top 3 president, remarkable leadership that inspires esprit de corps. All right, so the fluff part of it is the remarkable leadership that inspires esprit de corps. So you can use top 3 president, you know, rising 6 president, whatever. You just got to have impact and result. And in this, there's no impact and result. So don't use a job title. If you're going to use a job title, make sure that you have impact and result. And, you know, and it's kind of the top 3 presidents kind of a mini job title. In his book, he actually has a tip here, a tip for that one writing trap. It says, without comments describing specific action and impact, how can we assess the performance? This would be like reading a performance appraisal with a job title, but no statements to describe the performance. So it says avoid the job title trap. Okay, number 5 is the death bullet. Persistence impacted outstanding grade during compliance inspection. So this one, persistence impacted, is kind of a fluff statement. You got outstanding grade during accomplishment or during compliance inspection is your accomplishment and your impact. It's kind of like effort trap. Inspection denotes a leadership level result, but the action and impact are vague. All right, so watch out for the death bullet traps. Another tip here that he has in his book is many appraisals cite stellar inspections and heralded actions. Sadly, writers are caught in the halo effect and forget to connect the dots. Make sure you tie the action to the result and avoid the death bullet trap. All right, so 6, lazy writing. Lean-minded, process map support section, tool issue more efficient. That's just a lazy bullet. It's just, it's vague. You know, it does have action, impact, result. Lean-minded is the fluff. Impact is process map support section. It does have a result, but it's lazy. Not a lot of effort went into it. Okay, next one is too many acronyms. So C5, B, SME, the TS, elusive slat, WU. Some of you aircraft maintainers that are in this class right now know exactly what this is. But if I take this over to somebody in FM, are they going to know what it is?
Makes perfect sense to me.
Right. So too many acronyms will kill the bullet. And prime example is I've sat on a board before for step packages, and we had the 1206 was loaded with so many acronyms, and your certain awards are authorized an acronym list, because sometimes you need a certain thing to be in there to capture it. And they'll allow you to put an acronym list, and it has to be written a certain way. But just like the formatting of the award, the guidance for that specific award will tell you if you're allowed to have an acronym list or not. But this 1206 that I was reviewing had so many acronyms that every third word I had to look down at the acronym list to figure out what that acronym was. And it got to the point where I didn't even want to read it anymore, because it was almost too difficult. You know, I was having to look down, look up, look down, look up, look down, look up, and I just gave up on it. And it came to the point where it fell into this too many acronyms. So we ended up, you know, unfortunately, it wasn't, we couldn't use that 1206. And there was a lot of good data in it, but it just couldn't use it. So the next one is a bridge too far. Replaced rivets on cargo door, $2 billion fleet serviceable, C5 delivered supplies. So this one here, so your action is replace rivets on a cargo door. Your impact is 2 billion fleet serviceable. The result, C5 delivers supplies. Okay, that's a good bullet, but it's not realistic, because you replacing the rivets on a cargo door makes that aircraft serviceable, not the entire $2 billion fleet serviceable. All right, your next one is know your audience. So awarded LVN, past prerequisite training and examination within allotted time. That's a really good bullet. It's got a lot of, you know, the result or action impact result. It's kind of written a little bit reverse engineered. But to me, I don't know what an LVN license is. So that part there is, if you don't provide the critical information, then nobody's going to be able to figure out what that bullet does. All right, the next one, the last one is, who is your audience trap? So completed final requirements for organizational behavior, bachelor's degree with 3.87 GPA. All right, so this one here, it's who is your audience? Is this a bullet that you don't want to make readers try to hunt through your records to find out what this bullet means? Is basically what that is. So his tip says you don't want to force time-constrained readers to hunt through records to unearth your competencies and capabilities. It says reorganize your accomplishments so the reviewer can fully and easily assess your performance and potential. Avoid this trap. All right, so that's basically it for the brown bag lessons. Like I said, I encourage you all to go download this from his website. A lot of really good stuff. Here, once we get a little bit more normalcy after this whole coronavirus thing is over with, and we get a little bit more people on base, we're actually going to start doing an advanced bullet writing class, where we're going to talk about levels of performance and you know, supervisor levels, organizational bullets, you know, that kind of stuff. That'll be like a continuation of the brown bag lessons. All right, so up next here, we got the Freedom Wing, the 514th Writing Mechanics Guide. So the wing does have a mechanics guide, and it's posted on the wing SharePoint page, but not a lot of people have reviewed it. So a lot of the requirements that we have in the wing are in there. Some of the good ones highlighted in here. So using the standard punctuation format as follows: accomplishment, impact, result. So this is what's telling us this is what we have to use to write these bullets. All right, it doesn't matter what the tongue and quill says. The tongue and quill gives different recommendations. The 514th Air Mobility Wing says this is what we're going to use. All right, so in order to save space, do not use numerical designators in front of air wing, med group, CS, that kind of stuff. Do not use multiple line bullets and sub bullets in evaluations. So there it is right there in black and white. We cannot use sub bullets or multiple line bullets in evaluations. Sometimes it's required in a 1206, but for EPRs, we do not use them. Numbers, bullets can be used. Bullets can use numerical numbers of less than 10 to save space. So basically, if you have 6 people, you can put the number 6. If you have 22 people and you have the space, you can spell it out, but refer to the tongue and quill for how you're supposed to put it in there, because it does make a difference. Don't compare rabies to animals. Some people laugh at that one, but it does in here. One of them calls them a stallion. Another one in here is don't refer to airmen as troops or any active duty personnel as kids. I know that happens a lot, but we don't want to do that. Also the whole animal thing is another one is like workhorse. The squadron's workhorse. You don't want to do that. All right. The other thing that's in the wing writing guide or the mechanics guide is how to abbreviate certain words. So a lot of times you find yourself lost for space. You don't want to. You want to capture everything, but some of these words like develop. So let's use the word development, for instance. So I'm going to scroll down to the end of the wing writing guide where it has a list of all these words that you can shorten. So here's the word development. And if you're lacking like 5 or 6 spaces to make that bullet a single line bullet because it wrapped around to the next line, here's your way to shorten it. This is the wing approved way of shortening the word development. All right, so this guide is in here. So I will email this guide out to everybody as well if you can't get it off the SharePoint. But it's everybody's job has a ton of words that we can use to capture things. Just sometimes they're too long. So here's one here: capabilities. So I know capabilities is something that we use a lot in our career field, in the aircraft maintenance side, and we can shorten that to the word capes. All right, another little trick. I don't know if it's in here, if I put it in, but if you have a word like, say right here, replaced, and you are one line over or one space over into the next EPR bullet, you take the word, or take the letter E out of there and replace with an apostrophe. And what that does is gives you that one space you needed to make your full bullet go to the very end of the EPR block. The only time you can use that is if the word can be used by itself without the D on it. So you can use replaced with an apostrophe, but there's other words that you cannot use. Let me find it real quick just so you guys can see it. Sometimes it's hard to understand what they actually mean by it. There's another one. Fitness comments are prohibited unless you're a PTL or UFPM. So that's probably something somebody's going to ask. I know it's in here. There it is. 10.2, rule with D. So the word that's being abbreviated must be able to stand alone when using the D with the apostrophe. So you can use honored because you can use honored by itself. All right, so you see the example here. So completed should not have an apostrophe D. So I'm going to go back to my EPR from when we first started. So I'll give you a little time to take a look at it here to see if you notice a difference from how it was written to what we're looking for nowadays. All right, so if you want to actually go down line by line and look at these bullets, they're not the greatest. Industrious nature is ambiguous, or it's fluff. Always stays up to date on the latest tools and technology in order to pass on to subordinates. Where's the action? Where's the impact of that? Credited with saving the Air Force over $10,000. So there's a round number. It's not specific. You know, there's no action in it. Unless you look at when he repaired. Demonstrated superior technical skills in replacing an aircraft window in minimal time. What was the minimal time? There's nothing specific in it. So as you can see, the way this EPR was written back then, I think this was in 2009, 11 years ago, this was acceptable. And now, I look at this and I'm like, wow, I can't believe this was actually allowed, because how we're writing things now. All right, so here's a summary. So we looked at the tongue and quill. There's the reference there. You can get it off ePublishing. The magic of bullet writing. So brownbaglessons.com. You can grab that off of there. He's got a bunch of other things that are on it. I encourage you to go check it out. He's got a really good package of stuff for us to use. The writing guide is on SharePoint. I can send it out if anybody needs it. Also, this guy, Chief Guerrette, has Brown Bag Lessons on YouTube. So if you go to his YouTube page, you can see some of these videos. It basically talks about what we just did. And I mentioned that Facebook murder group board, or murder board group, I should say. So that's about it. Okay, I'll open it up to questions. Like I said, this was just a quick basic thing, just to say, hey, look, this is where the guidance is. This is how we should be doing it. This is what to look for. We'll do another class to make things, a little bit more in depth on how to write certain things. But I'm going to open it up to questions now.
You've got some thanks coming in, sir. Also, just to let everybody know, I captured email addresses. If you registered with Zoom with your email address, I should be able to get that and then send it out to the list. We'll also post it in a SharePoint when Chief sends it to me, and I'll send that link out to the wing. And Chief, there was a request from somebody from the AMXS to put it on your SharePoint.
Okay. I wonder if it was the bearded Danny Martinez. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll email it out, and I'll put it on our SharePoint as well.
Let's see here. In that book, somebody asked me the name of the book. There it is on the slide, The Magic of Bullet Writing. I didn't see any other questions in the chat. Did I miss any? Lots of thanks coming in for you, Chief.
And Chief, this is Sergeant
No
Mariano.
problem. Glad I was able to do this.
This is Sergeant Mariano. I do have a question. In regards to fitness requirements, I know it's stated that we're not to mention that in an EPR, but the fitness requirements are so critical nowadays, and if the airman is exceeding their fitness requirements significantly, setting some sort of standard of fitness that is notable, are we completely held at bay or to bring that to bear? Do we have to have PPL write the bullet and officially put it in? I mean, are we allowed to do that? Or are we completely restricted from mentioning successes, significant successes in fitness comments?
Well, to me, it looks like that the only bullets regarding fitness that can be put in an EPR is if you're a PTL or a UFPM. You can't put like the member consistently scores a 91%. Let me look through this guide real quick here.
Because it did, it said very clearly in your notes, it did say clearly in the notes that you're not supposed to be doing it unless you're a fitness PTL.
It says it right here, 1.12 of the wing guide says fitness comments are prohibited unless the individual is a certified PTL or UFPM.
So does that mean we can petition the UFPM for the statement and have it added?
No.
Okay.
That means like in our unit, like Casalio could put something in his EPR that says he's a fitness monitor or UFPM. Or if we have 15 PTLs, those guys can say, yes, I'm a PTL for the unit. But basically what this is telling you is you can't put anybody's fitness results as a bullet. That's kind of what the guidance is telling us.
Fair enough.
Hey, Chief, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, this is Hicks. Can you talk more about like writing to the audience? Because if the difference between writing an EPR for a bullet for an EPR versus writing for an award or a board.
Well, you're basically what writing for the audience is. You don't want to. Let me pull the book open here. So what they're telling you with that bullet trap is you don't want to write your EPR bullets or your award bullets specifically for thinking that your stuff is going to go in front of an aircraft maintainer board. You want to be able to write the bullets on a 1206 and your EPR so that anybody in the Air Force can look at that EPR bullet and see what it means or know what it means. That's what they're
specifically,
talking
we had that problem with a board where someone wrote an EPR, but there were so many acronyms and things in it that no one else could understand what the bullet meant unless you were in that career field. And that airman could have been a great airman, could have had a great period, but we really wouldn't know because we just couldn't understand what they read.
Right. Yep. Yep, and that's what they tell us not to do. And and nowadays it's considered a business rule violation. So if you submit a 1206 that's written for your AFSC and it's loaded with stuff about aircraft navigation equipment and all these different, INUs and INS and DME and all this stuff, nobody else knows what that means. So when that board member could be somebody from AMDS, and when they're looking at that, they have no idea what that stuff means. And if you're not allowed to have acronyms on your package, then that package is kind of useless because nobody can decipher what that means. And if your entire board has, say, you're somebody from FSS, somebody from training, somebody from CE, and there's no aircraft maintainers there, then it's even worse because you get no way to get it explained. So that's why the whole audience thing is very important.
Thank you, Chief. And could you also talk a little bit about like pulling things like statistics or wing statistics and things like that and trying to incorporate those into bullets?
Sure. So in the aircraft maintenance side, it's very easy for us to pull data because we have an analysis shop. But every other agency should have sign-in rosters, even like, so I'll use AMDS, for example. They schedule PHAs for flyers, for non-flyers, the ground members. They schedule audiograms, gas mask fit tests, all that kind of stuff. That stuff should be captured somewhere in their own facility through sign-in rosters, making appointments and ASIMs, that kind of stuff. So they should be able to go to that system and pull the data for the month. They should be able to pull it for the year. In our, EPRs every 2 years, so you can go back. In our case, I can go into GDSS and pull back, see how many flights we did over the last 2 years, how much cargo we loaded, on a tanker side, how much fuel did they pass. There's systems for all that kind of stuff. And I encourage everybody, if you have that system or somebody who operates that system, get with them to pull that data, because it's easily captured, especially on our side, because we track takeoffs and landings and, specific times when everybody's supposed to be out there doing certain things like loading cargo, how many people are on the team to load cargo, and all that stuff is captured. Can I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chief. Just hopefully everybody else has something they can go to pull stuff like that.
Right. So anybody in the flying community or maintenance community, the folks over in current ops, in our OSS shop, actually the current ops shop in OSS, they have a SharePoint that has all that stuff on there. They keep track of flying hours. They keep track of what they fly for active duty. AMC funded missions, they keep track of all of it. So hopefully all the other groups, the mission support group and AMDS, and even up at the wing, I'm sure the safety guys keep track of how many briefings they give and, incidents they report on, what the value is, if something does happen, if it's a class A, B mishap, that kind of stuff, that's all captured somewhere. What else we got?
This is Sergeant Mariano again. In the interest of the last question about pulling data, one of those things that we found very useful at the 62nd Air Wing was trip reports, making sure that when you are on a trip that if you're out there, whoever's leading that trip, capturing data very critically so that when it is brought back, it becomes a very simple transition from a trip report. Those are the most powerful bullets because you're supporting the system.
Yep, and that goes back into, for those that don't have cell phones and just want to keep a handy little green book in, your flying crew chiefs or whoever is on the aircraft, flip it open. Hey, what did I do in this leg of the mission? And write it all in there. That way, the data that's captured in here or on your cell phone in your notes can be easily translated onto that trip report. So that's a good point. No other questions?
Anyone else have a voice question? Hearing none, sir. Fantastic class. Lots of compliments here in the chat. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Anytime. If anybody's got any questions or needs any other help with anything, just shoot me an email. I'm here the rest of the day today. Whatever you guys need. Again, if you guys are aware, the top 3, we have a Google Voice number. Doesn't get a lot of use, but if anybody's got any questions, even EPR bolts, that kind of stuff, shoot it over. The number is 609-222-4487. So you can shoot me a text message, whatever, whenever, doesn't matter. I'm here to help you guys.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Thanks a lot, folks.